What's up guys, welcome to a new video. My name is Joop from the Clips, aka Macaroni with the Cheese, and today is the 11th of December 2025. It's almost end of the year guys, but today I have a brand new video for you and it's about a serious subject because in the last few days we had a pretty critical vulnerability discovered. This vulnerability was discovered on the 29th of November by Sir Lerland Davidson. And what he basically discovered that there was a security vulnerability in the React component that allows unauthenticated remote execution by exploiting a flaw in how React decodes payloads. So it was pretty hectic over the weekend, and a lot of instances were doing research, and since he's discovered 2.1 million exposed web services, everyone was running around doing this thing, doing researches, but also tried to make POCs, proof of concept. And it was pretty hectic all over the globe. You have to imagine that the React and the Next component are being used to develop web apps. So everyone was trying to search some proof of concept, as I was saying, try to hack with malicious exploits, weaponized exploits, and non-weaponized exploits. So it was pretty hectic. Even I tried to get me one of those proof of concept books. These were the versions that were vulnerable, the 90.0, 90.1, and 90.11, 90. So React basically made a claim that it was very important to patch immediately. They even made a page about it to communicate with the people and basically make a big disclosure about how important it was to patch their component, patch their server, because it was pretty big. It was not as big as Log4j, but it was pretty interesting. Also, even me, I did my thing, did some research, and I also tried to explore this vulnerability in my own environment. So what I basically did, I spun up a vulnerability app on my local host and on port 3000. And what I basically did is try to scan it, as you can see, and try to see if it will signal that there's a vulnerability. It basically did, and I did it with the repo on a GitHub that I find, and it, as you can see, it find the vulnerability on my local host. So that was for me the signal that I could launch my Python script on it and see if I can execute some commands. So I gave the Python script the rights to execute the command, and then I basically execute this command to the local 3000 and try to discover the ID. And this is what it gave me. It gave me the ID, it gave me the group, and it gave me enough information for me. So it was pretty interesting to see how this vulnerability works. Keep in mind that if this was at a target of someone else server, I pretty much could see what's going on. I even could execute the Etsy password, and that gave me a lot of information about what really is going on, the messages and data, etc., users, and that kind of thing. So I was pretty interesting to see how this works, and I learned a lot from it. And there were three attacks possible. The one on the command line was possible, and the second one was doing it by Burp Suite. And even in Burp Suite I could execute, because this vulnerability basically lets you execute some remote commands, but it didn't ask for any authentication. So that made it pretty hectic to see how this vulnerability could be exploited. And it pretty was exploited by many groups, many people. So this is basically how the vulnerability happens. The next-gen protocol sends to a server-side data to the browser. When the browser interacts with the server action, it sends a model back to the server. This model is serialized JavaScript structure. So this is the part what really goes wrong. If reconstructs object using keys such as proto, then internal metadata, this reconstruct process is not protected. A crafted payload can override this internal logic and hijack the resolver path. This gives the attacker control of how the servers interprets the object. So this is what I confirmed. I had a target and I basically launched the payload and I put the ID in the exec sync, and this is the answer that it gave me. And I could execute many more commands. I could execute etc password, as I said, the path with the ls command, and it basically gave me a lot of confirmation of what I saw. So this is the ls command, as you can see, and this is the answer that I get, and this is the etc password, as you can see, cat etc password. So it was pretty interesting to see what's basically happening. So yeah, this is a small picture of what happened. So there are a few things that I want to share why it's important. Is many developers assume framework like Net is protected them automatically, but one had assumption in the server-side input handling is enough to reach code execution. If an exploit requires a special script, only a small group will use it. If it works through any HTTP client, the attack surface grows immediately. So it was pretty interesting to see that I could execute, and I learned a lot from this. So the CVE vulnerability is a strong reminder that the server-side frameworks can fail in unexpected ways. A single serialization flaw opened the door to the direct command execution. So the third possibility, because it was all over the place, and a lot of people try to exploit, a lot of people try to find the proof of concept, and there also was a third possibility. What I basically have seen, there was basically an extension made, an RCE extension made, as you can see, and you could basically open the target and then it would execute the exploit. I hope that the picture is gonna go bigger, but yeah, as you can see, you could basically launch the extension via Chrome, the Chrome browser, and then active fingerprint, and then you could launch a command. And this is what I did just to check if the target has this vulnerability active. So this was the third way of attacking those IPs and domains, and it was very interesting to see. I learned a lot from this case. So the Chinese Nexus cyber threat group rapidly exploited React2Shell. React2Shell is basically the name they gave to this vulnerability, React2Shell, because it's reacted to the shell command. And as I said before, Lachlan Davison discovered it on the 29th of November, and he told the meta group, and the meta group had connections with React, and they made an official disclosure about it. What made this vulnerability very high, very important to patch, is because it had a CVSS score of 10, the maximum severity. And as I said, it was an unauthenticated RCE, a remote code execution. And yeah, it was very important to see. Many people were exploiting him. Even TryHackMe made a room about it to learn. Always happy to see if it learned. I also completed this room just to understand the vulnerability more, because I'm always learning. This is pretty, it's not pretty new to me, but I can get more and more skin in the game as I try to do these videos and try to do these researches. So it also went into the National Vulnerability Database. As I said, it has a critical of 10, and it was a pretty serious CVE to see. So I was very happy to share this, guys. I also did some research on Shodan, so it was very interesting. So the next thing that I want to share about the CVE vulnerability is that Wiz data indicates that 39% of cloud environment contains instances of Next.js or React in the version vulnerable to CVE. Regarding Next.js, the framework itself is present in 69% of environments. Notably, 61% of those environments have public applications running Next.js. So it's pretty much a big thing. Not as big as the other vulnerability that I talked about, log4j, but it was pretty big. So there was a lot of exploitation in the wild. It was pretty hectic, guys, and it was all over the place. So I learned a lot from this vulnerability, and I was happy to share this with you guys. So what is tracking rapidly? So as I go back to the vulnerability, so this is what pretty much a few target that I had. It also gave you a 500 code, but this was because Cloudflare also had problems. So it couldn't give me the correct server API code, API code 200, but it managed to give me the answers that I needed while executing this command. So what I have for you guys. Yeah, it was pretty interesting to see. It was all over the place. People were talking a lot about it. And as I said, what makes this very, very important is the fact that you did not have to use authentication just to get in. So that just was pretty much wide open, and the exploitation was executable from a HTTP request, and yeah, it was very learnable. So I did learn a lot from it. Actually, I only crafted HTTP requests, and they were withdrawn for now, but our testing has shown 0%. Yeah, I was very happy to share this vulnerability with you guys. So this is the GitHub where I basically built the vulnerability app and also execute the POC and also try to do it, because keep in mind, guys, if you execute this on a real target, you basically are passing the law. It's not it's basically going against the code of conduct of an ethical hacker. You do not have the permission to execute those codes on real targets. So that's why it's better to execute it on your own environment on the local host. And yeah, that's it. So this is the guy that I basically followed. He made a video about it, and I learned a lot from how he did it. Because keep in mind, guys, you cannot know everything. You have to keep on learning by doing this, guys. So I hope you learned something today about this vulnerability. And if you guys would like to follow more of this stuff, go follow my Medium account. My Medium account is Macaroni with the Cheese. And there's where I basically share a lot of my projects, things that I like to do, things that I like to share. I have a few posts up there. So one day go Second Attack. I also self-hosted the N8N with Docker. It's basically a Kubernetes framework. So this was the React2Shell, also container implement in Azure. So I try to learn by doing and share my knowledge with you guys. So yeah, that was basically it for this video. I hope you guys learned something today. Is another video that it's not the same video that I used to make on my YouTube channel, but this is also my main domain. Is what I do for work, and what I like, what I'm interested about is also researching vulnerability. And yeah, that's basically what I like to do. So with that being said, see you guys in the next video. I hope you learned something today, and we out. Peace.